Hi, welcome to the reading of my memoir, Rebirth. I am reading chapter 3. If you just stumbled upon this, I've read the chapters before, so go ahead and look for those first so that you are in sequence with where we are now. I started from the beginning of the book and am reading chapter by chapter, and I'm reading chapter 3 now. If you like this story, please make sure to subscribe so that you know when each chapter drops. And if you think of anyone who may like to follow this story along, make sure to like and share. I appreciate you being here. And again, I'm reading from my memoir entitled Rebirth, and this is chapter 3, Meeting Our Birth Team. The second clinic was on the main floor of an older Toronto home across from a park. The foyer had been recently renovated, and a corkboard in the hallway displayed flyers, dream catchers, and symbols of Inuit birthing traditions. To the right of the message board, the first room contained a large corner sofa and a reception desk tucked into the adjacent corner. A wall of bookshelves completed the space, beneath a plush, cream-colored area rug. A wooden plank floor stretched with toys scattered like confetti. We introduced ourselves to the receptionist, then settled into the soft gray couch. Behind us, photos of newborns and handwritten letters from former clients covered the walls. I absorbed every detail of the room until a tall, slender, and well-spoken woman walked in. She introduced herself as Sarah. Her language was deliberate and studied, yet her authenticity shone through. Something in me relaxed, folding gently into the warmth of her precise narration. She escorted us to a white painted room with a small desk and a lounge chair. We hesitated in the doorway, unsure where to go next. She turned and pointed to 2 stools stuck beside the desk. We sat down, and she pulled a third stool from behind the chair, placing it across from us. The introduction to midwifery was nearly identical to what we'd heard at the previous clinic, but her energy, precise pronunciation, and quiet confidence sparked something inside me. I was ready to sign. Already in my 4th month of pregnancy, I was eager to start forming relationships with the caretakers who would help guide our journey. Do you need more time? I asked, turning to Mauro. It's up to you, he said gently. We thanked Sarah for her time and then returned to the lounge area to fill out the forms. A wave of relief surged through me. The decision had finally been made. As we stepped off the front porch, Mauro pulled out his phone and called the first clinic to let them know we would not be using their services. At our next visit, we were introduced to Evelyn, a student midwife in training, younger, more enthusiastic, and more vibrant than Sarah. She was somehow even more textbook. Her presence pulled me deeper into the enchantment of the birth journey. There was something joyful, almost theatrical about her energy. I felt swept into the magic of it all, guided by 2 knowledgeable yet comical women who brought both warmth and wisdom to every interaction. Sarah and Evelyn would be our primary team and would most likely attend our birth. However, in case they were already supporting another labor, we were instructed to schedule an appointment with Amy to meet one of our backup midwives. Meeting both teams of midwives reassured me that we would know who would be present at our birth, eliminating the possibility of a stranger entering the room during such a sacred moment. That alone brought me profound peace of mind. Since babies arrive on their own schedule, Sarah explained, carefully enunciating each word. She paused, shrugged, then added, for the most part, anyway. I watched her face as she formulated her next thought before continuing. Coordinating multiple births adds a layer of uncertainty. She paused again, smiled, then continued with more conviction. However, we do our best to avoid overlaps based on the baby's estimated due dates. I nodded, each movement of agreement anchoring a sense of trust in their system within me. They had done this before. They knew how to care for birthing mothers. At 22 weeks, Mauro drove me to an ultrasound appointment where we were to find out the baby's gender. We waited a few minutes in the brightly lit reception area before being called in. Maro followed me into the exam room and stood by the closed door as I lay back on the table. The ultrasound technician broke the silence. Do you want to know the sex of your baby? I shook my head. No. The word slipped out before I could think it through. I had always believed it didn't matter when we found out, whether at 20 weeks or at birth. It would be a surprise either way. But in that moment, in that sterile white room, I experienced the question for the first time, and my soul answered before my mind could. My heart fluttered against my rib cage as I looked over at Mauro. His eyes widened, then in one swift motion, he raised his hand and sliced the air between us. I want to know, he blurted, stepping forward. We had agreed to find out, and that's why he had come. But suddenly I wasn't ready. I was afraid, not just of the result, but of my reaction to it. I didn't want to carry the weight of disappointment throughout my pregnancy. Trying to rationalize or hide it under layers of cheerfulness, pretending I was just as excited as everyone else. Keeping the mystery alive felt like the best option for myself and for the baby. I'd prefer to wait, I said, feeling shaken. Mauro's expression remained firm, concerned about his feelings. I turned to the technician and asked if she could write it down for him. I can't do that, she replied. If I were to determine the gender, I would have to write it in the file. And sooner or later, someone will slip and tell you when they open the file to eagerly congratulate you. I exhaled, frustrated, grasping for a solution. If you don't want to know, then no one can know, she continued. I believe it's the mother's choice and the only way to ensure your wishes are honored. I glanced back at Mauro, my chest tightening as a deafening silence settled between us. I searched his eyes for approval, or at least understanding. He sighed, his shoulders slumped. Fine, he conceded. We can keep the sex a secret. But his disappointment echoed in the room, trailing behind us as we left. Until that moment, it hadn't occurred to me that I didn't want to know. I hadn't realized the choice was mine, and I certainly hadn't expected she wouldn't write it down for him. Still, the decision awakened something new within me, a deeper excitement, a fuller sense of mystery. We agreed to call our baby Rocco, a name that transcended gender and kept the sacred unknown intact. Over the following appointments, we learned about the pregnancy, birth, potential risks, and the pros and cons of home birth. The sessions covered every conceivable scenario, offering us not just information, but a growing sense of agency. Most of our visits were with Sarah and Evelyn, though we had one with Amy and later another one with her partner, Carla. Twice we arrived expecting Sarah and Amy, but ended up meeting Evelyn alone. And though she was kind and gentle, I couldn't shake a subtle unease. From the beginning, Sarah had assured us the student would support the primary midwives. She hadn't mentioned she would lead appointments. Evelyn had heart, but I wanted continuity, time with the women who would be present when I brought my child into the world. Some sessions were marked by light disagreements between Sarah and Evelyn. Their differences in philosophy and perspective spanned most topics, reassuring me that there wasn't a one-size-fits-all answer. By September, Mauro and I agreed we preferred Amy and Carla's more relaxed, spontaneous energy. We hadn't spent as much time with them, but our time together felt easy, alive, and clear. They explained things with humor and heart, cutting through the overwhelm of medical jargon with clarity and joy. Even the tiniest, grittiest details of childbirth felt digestible in their hands. Through those appointments, we got to know our caretakers, we deepened our understanding of birth, we tracked the baby's growth, prepared for labor, and steadily built trust. By the end, it felt like more than a medical care. It felt like a relationship, a shared journey. They had the experience, and I was going along for the ride under their nurturing guidance, support, and protection. In the final hour, I would rely on my support team to guide me through the labor and birth of my baby in the best, calmest, most natural way possible. I felt honored to be supported by women who respected both the process and the mother, women who saw me not just as a patient, but as a vessel for something sacred. What could possibly go wrong? And that is chapter 3 of my memoir, Rebirth, that I'll be reading here chapter by chapter. So if you want to know when the next chapter drops, be sure to subscribe. And if you like what you're hearing so far, please like and share so that it reaches those who are meant to hear this story. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to